Om Agyanati Mirandasya Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaivaranuttamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayodhira Nashta Prayashu Bhadvesu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashuki Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Nigama Kalparu Garidam Param Shukam Agaram Samitam Vivata Bhagatam Rasamaryam Mahora Hora Shivu Yakaham Krishna Sadhama Pagate Dhamaginahi Karunashta Dushamasha Padana Kodunoditaham Swamapiya Dabhishuddha Vishuddham Vibhu Samyapiharayana Vidam Viduktaram Prakyahitaho Maharidam Sanklesha Nirvana Vasanti Nanyataham Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Jaivanaruttamam Devam Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayodhya Om Agyanati Mirandasya Ganagana Sadakya Chaksudunmiritam Yena Tashmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yeda Bhutare Swayam Rupa Karamayam Tarati Swapanantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamaram Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagadidam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shubhishikan Vitam Stam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Padanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvashes Sunyori Praskata Desarani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thanks so much for joining us this Wisdom Wednesday. Ram Kishore, Raleigh, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thanks very much. Wisdom Wednesday, I heard there's storms pummeling all of the United States. Today, it's a high in the 40s. Yesterday, I think it went into the 50s. It was like, Utah has this unique characteristic that it seems immune from a lot of negative things that seem to affect the other states. When we came here in 1981, I remember that it was the lowest per capita income practically of any county in the nation. And it was also, it wasn't unionized. And what else? Oh yeah, they had one of the highest unemployment rates. My boy says snow is coming today, but still I looked at the temperatures. Temperatures are going to be mid-30s, which is actually, not severe at all. Good morning, Shiva Goswami Das, Jimmy and Taruni. Thank you very much. Yesterday it was, gosh, I don't know, it felt like it was in the 70s. Probably wasn't. There was no need to wear a jacket or even a sweatshirt. Utah's our little secret here. Good morning, Rakesh. Thanks for joining us. Lakshmi said he would drop in this morning, so we'll hope for that to happen. This is the 6th session on the same interesting verse. Shivaya lokasya bhavaya bhutaya ya tamashoka parayana jara jivanti nat martam asho parashrayam mamota nibidya kuta kalevaram. 12th verse, 4th chapter, 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we discussed it 5 previous times. Yesterday we left off not having finished our discussion of this relevant verse, 56th verse in the 18th chapter, well known to all the devotees. Brahma Bhuta Prashan Atma. Prashad means deep satisfaction, the ocean. This lake behind me, the zoning department said they wouldn't give us a permit to open the temple back in 2001 unless we had 200,000 gallon water source in case of fire. There's nothing in the building that's combustible. There isn't any wood or drapes or anything, but nevertheless, code said you had to have, for that square footage, you had to have on hand 200,000 gallons of water and a hydrant. And we didn't want to make an ugly water tank either above or below ground. So we made this lake here. There's exactly at least 200,000 gallons of water in the lake. And we rented a big bulldozer from United Rentals. They're all across the country. They rent big equipment. And they were pretty easy to work. I started out, I learned the ropes, and I was gouging the hole in which we were later to make the lake. And even Bobby got the hang of it. So we didn't do the finish work. We didn't do the finer stuff, but we did the crude hole gouging to begin, and we had a great time. And then we had to pick the rocks out. So I remember during the construction, even today, we get a lot of volunteers. It's just a wonderful area for volunteerism. In fact, BYU has a website called justserve.org, and anyone can put their needs up there, and you can pretty much count on volunteers coming from BYU or from the community to help out. But particularly when we were building the temple, everyone seemed to get their shoulder behind the wheel. And I remember one morning after we'd bulldozed that cavity, before you lay the rubber and the ground cloth, you have to get all the stones out, because once you put thousands of pounds worth of water on the ground cloth, if you have any stones underneath, especially if they're sharp, they'll start making holes, and then you'll have a leak. So you have to remove all the rocks. So we had, I don't know, it's like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Good morning, Rob. Oh, here's Lakshmi Nishringa. All right, Lakshmi. I was just talking about the creation of this lake behind me. It just happens to be the virtual background today, because the verse uses the word prashanatma, deep, deep. My Bobby says Boy Scouts. Yeah, we had wheelbarrows. She says on that particular day it was 100 degrees, and of course you're down in the bottom. You're down in the bottom picking all the rocks up, and we had buckets. We had the 5-gallon white buckets. Good morning, Ajay. Good morning, Dibya. Good morning, Subhadra. Thanks very much for joining us. And Stoka Krishna came in also earlier. And so what we did, we fill up these buckets, which had handles, but then it was a steep climb up the hill. In fact, you wouldn't want to climb up that hill. Good morning, Raquel and Sean. Namaste. You wouldn't want to climb up that hill with, 25, 30 pounds worth of rocks. And so there was a chain. 4 or 5 people dug themselves in at various points on the hill, and the buckets went up. They got emptied. The buckets were passed down. So in that way, with the help of 100 local volunteers, we got all the rocks out of the lake, and then it was smooth, and then we laid down the rubber that's common for lakes, man-made lakes, ground cloth. We sealed the rubber with this concrete lip. There's a lip you see that goes around, that goes over, and that fixes in place the rubber. And then we filled it, and who knows how many thousands of pounds of water in there. And then originally, we didn't have any plant life, we didn't have any fish. So I used to swim laps. It's exactly the length of an Olympic pool. I used to swim laps back and forth. And my wife wanted to put some koi. We had a koi pond elsewhere in the property, so she wanted to put some koi in there. And I said, well, I don't want a bunch of koi, nipping at me while I swim. She said, I'll just put 3 males in. So she took 3 of the biggest males, put them in there, and lo and behold, they started propagating. Next spring, there's all these little tiny tadpole koi. I looked it up on Google, and it turns out they can change their gender if their survival is in any way threatened. A male koi can change into female. So now there's so many koi. Every spring, Bobby has a sell-off. She advertised in the paper. Amazing the number of people that deal in koi. She has to almost do a lottery for the people that come, and she generates $600-700 just selling the koi, so we don't get overpopulated. And then she started planting water lilies and everything, so we don't swim any laps anymore. But it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Please visit if you're ever in the area. The koi are very friendly. They'll almost eat out of your hand. There's 1 or 2 that if you get close enough and you have the fish food, they'll actually come halfway up out of the water and eat it out of your hand. Try to acknowledge everyone. If I missed you, it was not intentional. Yeah, okay. A little back and forth. One of our listeners. Thank you, Lakshmi. Haribo. Who's doing the cooking this morning for your deities?
It's my wife's turn.
Lakshmi's wife is a doctor, and They're looking to relocate, so we put our resume out with some of our members. Govinda Dev, Raj Vilas, are networking to see if Utah might not be in your future. I was just telling everyone before you logged on that the United States is being pounded by big storms and snow. But yesterday in Utah, it was just like a spring day. It was
Ah.
totally balmy. And even though there is some snow for today, temperatures aren't going to get that high.
Do you have a severe winter in Utah?
We actually usually pray for more snow than we get. It's high desert, and so you actually want snow, and we don't usually get as much as we'd like to get to fill up all the reservoirs and everything. But anyway, we haven't had any drought conditions for about 6 or 7 years.
That's because you're chanting there in the
Well,
Spanish Fork in Salt Lake City.
but it may be just me. Good morning, Anjali. Good morning, Monica. It may just me, but it seems to me Utah has a certain immunity. You know, some of the things that affect California and the East Coast and the hurricane states down there, Georgia and Florida and Louisiana. You know, I don't know, we're just situated well. And actually, before you came on, I started to say that when we came into Utah in 1981, it was the highest unemployment rate, Utah County in the country, and the lowest per capita income. And by 10 years, and we have our radio station, so those vibrations just go out 24 hours a day, kirtan, bhajans, and so on and so forth. Um, by 1993, which is just a scant 12 years after we got our foothold in the area, and that's still 8 years before this temple behind me was open, Utah County was, in Money magazine, it was designated as the #1 quality of life county in the nation with a very decent per capita income, the lowest rate of unemployment. And even during the recession that we had a few years ago, um, people didn't lose their homes. They were able to keep up with their mortgages. Utah had the least number of foreclosures of any state in the union. Also, uh, it's quite common for the governor of Utah to be elected to be the board of governors nationwide. Gary Herbert served as the chairman of all the governors, and he likes to share the story that all the other governors asked him, "Well, what makes Utah so special?" You know, and he kind of jokes. He says, "Well, I would like to say in answer to that question that it's their leadership, but I would be lying." He said, because the plain fact of the matter is just good people.
Yeah, there's probably an overall element of piety because of the Mormon presence, and they have some principles and all that that they follow. So I imagine that that contributes. But you can't diminish your presence there, because when Prabhupada was in Hyderabad and they were having a severe drought, and the media, I think it was the newspaper, asked Prabhupada, what was his recommendation, and he said Harinam, and they kind of dismissed it a little bit, and then Prabhupada sent the Harinam out, and the drought broke very quickly, and there was a big headlines, Swami says kirtan will relieve of drought, and it actually happened. So
I noticed there's huge construction going on in Utah, even in spite of the pandemic. You know, buildings are going up willy-nilly, huge housing projects, condominiums. And I asked my Bobby, I said, our population isn't growing, is it? I mean, people are having one or two kids. People, older people are dying off almost at the rate, the kids are being born. We may not have a zero population growth, but I'm sure we're not much above that. And yet, how come there's so much construction? And Bob always says, and I don't know if it's true or not, she says everyone's moving to Utah because
yeah,
there isn't the construction in other places that there is in Utah.
well, they're moving out of California, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So they're going, probably to Utah and other places that have a good quality of life.
When we originally got the desire to buy a radio station, when the opportunity came up, of course, I've been in the LA Temple for 10 years. I was life membership director. And, I got a lot of discouragement from the upper management there. And in fact, I like to tell people that, and you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Caru. Karu,
Yes.
you don't want to go to Utah. Utah is small time. Stay in
Yeah.
LA. LA is big time. Well, it's kind of ironic now that everybody's leaving LA to come to Utah.
That's right. That's
Hey,
right.
have you ever heard the phrase, he who laughs last laughs
Abs-
best?
That's right. Actually, I just spoke to him, by the way, 2 days ago. It's funny.
Don't get me wrong, I have the highest respect for him. I mean, he
Sure.
he was being true to what Krishna was, to his vision. But
Right.
but the problem is that, others can't always see what Krishna put in your heart. And you have to respect others, you have to take advice, you have to do your homework and your research. But at the end of the day, you can't let anybody else talk you out of your dream because they don't see what you see. They don't have in their hearts what Krishna put in your heart. So,
Yeah.
um, I talk about all these ironies and stuff, but I still love him. I still love him. I respect him, and
Yeah.
in fact, he sent me an email a couple years ago saying, "I'm so sorry for having trying to talk you out of Utah." He said, "Maybe you'll accept me as a guest and allow me to do some menial service while I'm there." And I said, "Sooner the better. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
roll out the red carpet
Anytime.
anytime."
Hey.
All right, Bhakti Gary's joined us. Anjali, Pragna, and Yogi. Hari Hari Bo. We're on that same verse. I don't know if you have a Bhagavatam open, but in the course of our discussion, we uh, brought out this verse, Brahma Bhuta Prashanatmana Sojani Nakanjati. And then I talked about the meaning of that word Prashanatma. It means deep, deep satisfaction like the ocean. And then I got distracted by looking at the virtual background here, and I told the story about the lake, which was a spin-off from someone who's Brahmabhuta realized, someone who realized themselves not as this body or part of this material world, which is always changing. I was reciting a verse this morning at Prahlad Maharaj said, Janmada sadi me bhava, drishta deyasya anatmanam jumatmanam, kalaneshwara ishvara. Kala means time, and uh, it says birth, growth, reproduction, duration, reproduction, dwindling, and vanishing. Those are Janmara Sadi. Sad means six. Those are the six inevitable changes of everything material, from the insignificant ant up to the universe itself, up to Lord Brahma. Everything material goes through those six changes: birth, growth, duration, reproduction, dwindling, and finally vanishing at last. But one who's Brahma Bhuta, who's on the spiritual platform, remains unaffected by one's changing circumstances. Uh, and that's the art we have to learn. We have to learn not to be swayed by circumstances. Be up when things are going our way, and then be down and depressed when things aren't happening according to our plan and our timetable. Someone who's spiritually realized Brahmabhuta is deep like the ocean. The Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, says, Apurya manam achala pradishtam. Oh, good. Prashant's here. He's coming up with the verses. Here's one towards the end of the second chapter. Apurya manam achala pradishtam samudra apa pravishanti yadvat kama yam pravishanti sare devashita pratinikashu yadha. The spiritually realized person is like the ocean, which has so many rivers flowing into it, and yet the surface of the ocean never gets uh, disrupted by the fact of so many rivers flowing into it. It remains cool and calm, and that's because of its breadth and because of its depth. So our goal in the human form of life is to become immune to the changing circumstances. Go down and in rather than outward. And then there's some symptoms, right? Nasojati, nakankshati, sama, sarvashu buddhishu, mad bhaktim, labhate param. One sees everyone without discrimination. We have a lot of momentum now for climate change. Greta Thunberg from Sweden. Heard of her?
Yeah, 14-year-old girl, right?
She's 16 now, but she
16.
started with the school strike when she was 14. She's been on the cover of Time magazine, and there was an Instagram thing just yesterday, I think, with her close up, just looking at you. And she has that way. She's so fixed. She's so determined, convinced about the need for a change in the way we treat Mother Earth. And she's a little autistic, which is an advantage because her type of autism helps you laser-like focus on a subject matter. They're finding now artistic people are of great value in the workplace because they don't easily get distracted. They're almost like yogis. They concentrate on something, and they don't bend, they don't compromise. So the latest Instagram, she's looking you right in the eye, really close up, and says, "What are you gonna do about climate change?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what am I gonna do?" But the problem is that, um, and she's vegan. I have to give her credit. She's vegan. Her parents are vegan and all. But many people are concerned about the climate, uh, but they're not concerned about the animals. You know, I remember that movie Cowspiracy. Did you ever see that?
No.
Well, it interviewed the heads of like EarthSave. Um, what are some of the big? Um, what's the one that Greenpeace? They interviewed the head of all these big conservative, nature conservation organizations, and and they're all focused on carbon emissions. And an even bigger cause of pollution is the meat industry, the practice of eating meat. It consumes more resources, more land, more water, puts more pollution out there than carbon emissions. And so this guy went around and he interviewed everybody, and he asked them. He said, and they started talking about carbon emissions, and people were getting into it, and feeling comfortable. And then all of a sudden he said, "Well, what about the animal industry?" And said, "And are you a vegan? Are you consistent, in wanting to say in your personal habit, are you a vegan?" And at that point, it was really funny because every single member of practically every conservation organization, just this interview is at an end. This interview is over. Get out, because apparently they're getting compromised. Like Bhishma and Dronacharya, they're good people, and certainly we need to work on carbon emissions. But apparently, they're getting the old bakshish to shut up about the consumption of meat. You know, it was watch it if you get a chance. Called Cowspiracy. So anyway, I forget what my point was. Maybe you could bring me back to Earth, Lakshmi.
I don't know. I was just going with you.
Don't go with me.
I was following you back home.
I don't know. We're going somewhere, but I don't know if it's back in the right direction. But so yeah, but someone who's Brahma Buddha, he sees all living beings equally. He's not sectarian. The best causes that we can throw ourselves into, the best cause that we can conjure up, by the very nature of our being limited in time and space. I mean, we are spirits, but we're in these bodies. And you see everything from this eye point of view. You can't avoid it. And we see with four defects: imperfect senses, tendency to cheat, to make mistakes, and to be illusion. So whatever good causes that men think up are going to benefit one area, but ignore at best or exploit other areas. See what I'm saying? So the key is, don't ultimately, if you want to be perfectly, don't follow or don't conjure up or follow a man-made cause. You have to put God into the equation. And what a lot of the nonprofit, well-intentioned people are doing are metaphorically watering the leaves, flowers, and twigs of the tree, but they're not watering the root of the tree. So you have Habitat for Humanity, you have Earth Save, you have Nature Conservation, you have Greenpeace. There are more nonprofits around. You have Greta and her school strike. And these are great people and they're well intentioned. But, I think overall, I think you'd have to agree with me that things are not, they're not getting better, they're getting worse. So if you imagine the social body as a tree, all these groups are watering the flowers, fruits, and leaves of the tree, but the tree itself is not doing very well. So you have to start putting that energy into the root of the tree. And I don't want to discourage anyone from saving the animals or from saving the earth or climate change. That's all good, but if you want to get more traction and be more effective, you have to please God. You can't just have a cause divorced from the cause of all causes. That's out of touch with ultimate reality. And so, some or other chant the names of the Lord, some or other integrate everything for the satisfaction of God. We don't want to deal with climate change and pollution um, for ourselves. The highest vantage point that we could have is to recognize that this is God's property. He's our Father. He's our Creator. He's our best friend. So above and beyond everything else, we want to take care of what God gave us. We want to respect it. We want to show our love for God by keeping a clean and pristine environment. What do you think?
I was just, I
I'll
was
just
just,
stay it out here while you can say something.
I was just thinking of the analogy Prabhupada used of zeros. You can have so many qualities, material qualities, intelligence, etc. And what does it add up to at the point of death? And you just put one in front of it, and then 1 0 becomes 10, 2 zeros become 100, etc. So your point about these different causes and movements, etc., it's a symptom of some degree of piety. When you want to help save animals or save the environment, that's a symptom of some degree of piety. But we add the element of connection with God, therefore yoga, because yoga means two significant things: connection to the supreme, and also separation from the material. So those two things are achieved by yoga. So that's what as bhakti yogis we promote is that we don't discredit or discount these noble efforts and noble causes, but we just say, please just add the focus and the origin or the source of all these things to the equation, which is God. And then it has real value.
We think of Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj's father, as an out and out demon. Maybe picture him with fangs and snarling and, you know, uh, foaming at the mouth. And the fact was that the demigods who normally arrange universal affairs, they make sure that the sun is rising and setting, seasons change, and the demigods are in charge of water and electricity and sunshine and all those good things, and they're representatives of the Lord. So when you worship the demigods, you're indirectly worshiping the Lord. And Hiranyakashipu ousted the demigods. He dethroned them, sat on the throne of Indra, and then he himself took charge of the universe. Um, and he was doing as good a job as the demigods did from a physical point of view. In terms of the cosmos, things were not disrupted. Uh, Whatever the demigods had done to ensure clean air and clean water and a pristine countryside and fertile crops and good rainfall, Hiranyakashipu did, a comparable job. But the problem was he was doing it divorced from God. So even if we do reverse climate change and if we do clean our water and all, still we have to be open and we have to invite the Lord in, because otherwise that doesn't in and of itself make you a good person or And maybe it makes you a good person, but we're talking about being the best that we can be. God doesn't want us just to be good. He wants us to serve Him, love Him, so that then He can shower, open up, they say, the vaults of heaven and bless us spiritually and materially. Hiranyakashipu did a competent job. And yet, when his father, when he asked his, I'm sorry, when he asked his son, what's the best thing that you've learned in school? Prahlad said, well, I didn't learn anything good in school, but I do know the best thing. And then it was Tat Saromanye Sarava Sada Samabhignayam Hipatmakitam Griyamanda Kupam Banankato Yadanamisaritam. He said, materialists, people who think in sectarian terms, in terms of them or their family or their race or their neighborhood or their species or their country, it's like they've fallen in a well. They've limited their vision and they've concentrated on a certain limited segment of the population, and they don't really mind exploiting the rest as long as those with whom they have a bodily connection prosper. Such a person, Prahlad says, has fallen into a well. They're trapped. And then he follows that observation with a piece of advice that just sends Hiranyakashipu ballistic. Jahi asaram imam tam bhavmatmana samo mana datsa nishantam vite jitarud patashtite taddihyanansha mahatsavarana. Now, everything that Hiranyakashipu represents, everything that he achieved, came from his having discriminated friends, enemies, and neutral parties based on his shrewdness, exploitative mentality. These are my friends. They can promote my sense gratification. So Hiranyakashipu was expert in making alliances with people that could promote him. And then these are my enemies. They're going to impede. And so he was expert at defeating, taking his enemies out of the equation. And then the rest, I haven't made up my mind about them. The jury's still out on them. So those are neutral parties. So everything that Hiranyakashipu had achieved, and every calculation in his mind at every moment of the day had simply to do with divisiveness, sectarianism, calculations. And the first thing that his son says, the best thing that I've known, Jahi Asaram, this is the demoniac mentality, to think in terms of us and them. Whether it be my family versus the rest of the world, whether it be my ethnicity against all those other aliens, or whether it be my country against other countries, or whether it be I'll favor my species, but the heck with the pigs and the sheep and the chickens and the cows. That all falls under the category of asura, ungodly mentality. And Prahlad says, if you want peace, you want to get out of the dark well of limited thinking, you have to first of all work on giving up this mentality of seeing friends, enemies, and neutral parties. And he says, Samo mono datsva, learn the art of seeing all others as equal. Because after all, even as far as the animals are concerned, we have far more in common with them than we do have differences. They have far more to give us than they are a threat. And this just, after saying this, Hiranyakashipu started to try to kill his 5-year-old son. Am I being too excessive here? I haven't seen anyone drop out of the comment section. In fact, we've been joined by Justin, Ram Kishore, Govinda Dev, Michelle. Justin says, can love be stern? I had to discipline my kid today and I told him it was because I love him. He said, like hell you do.
Tough love.
Krishna has that equanimity. It may seem as if he was partial to the Pandavas, and biased against the Kauravas, but he says, Samaham sarvabhutashu name dveshisti nampariyaham. I'm not partial. I don't love one, and I don't have revulsion for another. So then why, Lakshmi, did he treat the Pandavas one way and he treat Duryodhana the other way if he's supposedly of equal mentality?
Well, he says in the Bhagavad Gita, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Another way you could say it as, as you give to me what you're putting forth, I reciprocate accordingly. So when someone's trying to own what Krishna owns, then it's Isyavasamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagatena takyena bunjita magriha kashasvidanam. Then you're a thief. And then a thief is always in anxiety because a thief knows, he's got the possessions of another and can be caught at any moment. So, Krishna is saying, okay, you want to be a thief? And this is what comes with the mindset of a thief. One of the principles in Patanjalian yoga, the yamas and niyamas, is asteya. You can't steal, because stealing creates a mindset which is not conducive to peace, to calm mind. So that's what Krishna is saying. You want to steal from me, then you're going to have to live in a mindset of anxiety, distress, discomfort, because it's not really yours. But if you accept that, Bhoktaram Jagnatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutam Yaj Gyatva Shantim, then you get peace because you're accepting reality. And what is Krishna's definition in Bhagavad Gita? Reality, that which has no cessation, as opposed to illusion, that which has no duration.
So break that down, that 529, what Prabhupada called the peace formula. What are the three ways in which we see God, interact with God in such a way as to result in peace between human beings, peace between the humans and animals, and peace between humans and the planet?
Yeah.
What are those three aspects
Oh,
of God, realizing which we achieve those results?
Bhoktaram Jagnatapasam, he's the enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer, or that which we offer, all sacrifices, all tapasya, all of our stress to achieve stresslessness, freedom from stress. So that is Krishna. He's the Jagneshwara. He's the Lord of all sacrifices. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, of all the lokas, of all the planetary systems, Krishna is in charge of all of them. And Suvridam Sarva Bhutanam, he's the best friend. What kind of friend is better than Krishna? Can a friend save you from death? Krishna can save you from death. So those three things: Bhoktaram Jagnatapasam, recognizing that Krishna is the, who we offer all sacrifices to. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, he is the owner, controller, proprietor. He is Ishwara. And then Suridam, he's our best friend.
I was invited many years ago by Dean Chatterjee, who taught philosophy at the University of Utah, to address his class, and I spoke for 20 minutes, and then we opened up for 20 minutes for questions. So there was a student in the room that was quite aggressive. He raised his hand and he very aggressively said, God gave us this world, and so when we enjoy it, God's happy. What do you have to say about that? And I said, your whole premise is wrong. This world is not for our enjoyment. It is for God's enjoyment. Any entrepreneur will build a factory and he'll employ people to make things, but because he created the factory, he has the right as the proprietor and creator to enjoy the manufactured items. The workers are entitled to a wage, but they can't then say, because I made this, or rather I took the raw elements that the owner supplied and I made a cabinet or I made a desk, they can't take that home. That's what you call being a thief. That's illicit. So God created this world, and he didn't just like say, okay, you guys go ahead, take it, destroy it, do whatever you want with it. It's his world. We don't have the right to do whatever we want to because we don't own it. Only a thief, or only the thieving mentality, thinks you can appropriate somebody else's property and trash it. So I said, your premise is wrong. It is created by God, and God has the right of enjoyment. Now, does that mean that God's going to take everything and leave us homeless, penniless, starving? Not at all. Another co-analogy is that a father has children for his enjoyment. But how does a father enjoy children? By teaching them, by pouring into them good moral, good character, honesty, integrity, by leaving everything. The child is the heir. Whatever the father has created, the child has the right to enjoy that by the permission of the father. So to say that the father wants to enjoy the children doesn't mean that they're going to enslave them or exploit them. It's actually the best thing in the world that the father wants to enjoy the child, because when the child grows up to be productive and happy, well-adjusted, there's nothing the father could do for himself that's more pleasing to him than to see the child grow up properly. And in fact, the father would love to see the child surpass him, achieve even more than what the father has achieved. And that's why you see throughout the pastimes of Krishna when he's on the planet, he's always promoting his devotees to the point where it seems like they achieve even more than Krishna achieves. Because what Krishna doesn't have anything to prove. Atmaramas Tamunaya Nigranti, he's completely Atmarama. He's the original Brahma Bhuta, he's the original Prashanatma. Whatever satisfaction we get comes from him. So why would he want to take credit? He gives the credit, he empowers and gives the credit to his devotees. One time I was in the room with Prabhupada in Australia, and Prabhupada said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was God himself, spread the chanting of Hare Krishna all over India. But he didn't build any temples. So my guru built 64 temples, which Lord Chaitanya didn't do. He left that for Bhaktisiddhanta to do. And then he said, I have done more than my guru. I have established 108 temples, twice as many temples overseas. Now, he wasn't putting down his guru. He was bringing our attention to the fact that the guru wants the disciple to do more. Lord Chaitanya left it. He could have established temples, he was God, but he left it for Bhaktisiddhanta to establish temples in India, who left it to Prabhupada to establish temples all over the world. And Prabhupada wanted us to establish even more temples, do more than what he did. That's the pleasure. That's the pleasure. What's the use of fatherhood? What's the use of being a teacher if your student can't outdo you and surpass you? You want to empower your student or your child in that way. So it's not true that the world is here for our enjoyment. It's here for God's enjoyment. And we're here for God's enjoyment. And that is absolutely the very best position for us. Recognize that, to be good stewards, and God will pour his blessings unlimitedly upon. We're all sons of God, but if we don't act in harmony with God's best wishes for us, we step out of his favor and protection. That's the problem.
There's an interesting, much along the lines of what you're saying. There's a professor in Yale University. Her name is Dr. Laurie Santos, and she has the most attended class in all the universities. Her class has been recorded as having the most attendance out of any other class in any other university. And what does she teach? What is happiness? That's the course. And one of the things that she says, which is very interesting, and she got it from some other research that was done, I think, at Harvard, and Harvard for sure. But she says that if you want self-care, like it's big now with the pandemic, you're home, take care of yourself, treat yourself really nicely. She says the biggest thing proven scientifically that is most pleasing to oneself is to give to others. She says in numerous research histories, they found that the person who gave, and I'll give you an example of one in Harvard, they gave students, they broke them up into two groups, gave them $20 or some amount of money and said, this group, you spend the money on yourself. We won't give you the money unless you spend it on yourself. And then they gave the other amount of money to another group. We'll give you the money with the stipulation you have to spend it on somebody else. So when that occurred, and they did all the questionnaires and everything, they found that the group who gave the money was most fulfilled than the group that bought something. So because that's Krishna, that the whole Damodar Leela was exactly that. Krishna recognized what Mother Jasoda wanted. So he gave her that she wanted to bind her son, she wanted to chastise her son. So Krishna gave her that. And he was like blissful, even though he was bound with ropes and, that whole thing. And Mother Jasoda was blissful because she was able to demonstrate her parental ras, her parental love for him. Because it's intrinsic in the Supreme, it's intrinsic in us to give to others. So it's quite natural that the completion of sacrifice is us giving to Krishna. And then Krishna is so endeared by that, he gives back to us in fulfillment. So a person may get happiness, but we get fulfillment.
He originally endows us, he embeds within us gifts, talents, abilities, but he doesn't intend for us to use them selfishly, just to get our name in the newspaper, to get a big bank balance. He blesses us so that we can then pass it on and be a blessing to others. Unfortunately, people think that they go to the temple, church, and mosque, they ask God for blessings, and they put a period after it. They just think that religion and God is there to bless them or their family in terms of limited selfishness. But God gives you the blessings so you can pass them on. In other words, he wants you not to put a period, but he wants you to put a comma. And when he sees that you're using what he gave you to bless and enrich the lives of others, then what happens, Lakshmi?
Well, then you become fulfilled, you become complete. Because
more than that, he gives more.
Yeah.
He gives more, and it's a never-ending cycle. Evam pravartitam chakram. It's like a circle. You give, and then Krishna gives you more to then give out. And so there's a competition. You want to see how much no sooner do you get blessings and favor than you give it out, and then Krishna gives you more. And so there's like this competition between you and God. You're trying to see how much you can give out, and Krishna's trying to see how much more he can give you because you've just become a conduit. Prabhupada uses an example in connection with this verse, Brahmabhuta Prashanatma. He says, since God is full, a living entity who's engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness becomes also full. That means there's no end to the blessings that God can cause to flow in. Your job is as it flows in one end, you have to make sure it flows out the other end. See what I'm saying? Don't stop it up just in the name of your friends, your family, your country. And then Prabhupada says here, a devotee in Krishna consciousness is like a river cleansed of all dirty water. In other words, he doesn't go off in a cave and seclude himself or give up humanity. He commits himself to his own spiritual advancement and to the betterment of others. So he doesn't give up work but he purifies his work, just like a river is cleansed of all dirty things. Because a pure devotee has no other thought than Krishna, and Krishna has no other thought than delivering the fallen conditioned souls, the devotee is always naturally very, very joyful. Exactly what you said. More blessed to give than to receive. Hey, can you get your drum?
Have it.
And I'm just gonna do a little rap. Okay, I think this fits. Thank you, Prashad, for all those verses. Justin, thank you very much, everybody. I'm just going to do a rap, I think, which maybe goes along with this point. This is by MC Yogi. It's called Give Love. Okay? Hush, little darling, don't you cry. Every little thing's going to be all right. Don't you worry. Don't you be afraid. Everything's going to be okay. Open up your heart and break the chains. Turn the key and open the cage. Love will always find a way. What you give is what you get. If you want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Love is the best medicine. I shine like Edison whenever I let it in. Love is the power that opens every flower, transforms this coward into a champion. When you're lost, love is sent to remind you, offering signs and providing guidance. Love is infinite, unlimited, and timeless. Just look inside your heart is where you'll find it. Always remember, never forget, what you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Love is the answer. Love is the key. Love is the glue between you and me. Just open your eyes and you will see. Love is the thing that will set us free. Love is the remedy. Love is the cure. Love is the only thing that will stop the war. It's what everyone's looking for. Then what in the world are you waiting for? Always remember, never forget, what you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Love to your mother, love to your father, love to your brother, love to your sons and your daughters, love to your sister and all your friends. Shine your love in all directions. Giving and receiving is just like breathing. Living to give love gives life meaning, because love is righteous and it might just save the world from the global crisis. Always remember, never forget, what you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love away. Throw your arms up if you know what the time is. Open up your heart and let it shine the brightest. Love is all we need to get by. Love is all we need to get high. Open up your wings and let your love fly. Always remember, never forget, what you give is what you get. You want love, you got to give love. Give love. Give love away. Give love. Give love. Give love away.
Beautiful.
Are you guys ready for kirtan out there? Let's express our excitement and anticipation of another amazing Lakshmi Kirtan. Go ahead and give some thumbs up or some hearts, or say Go Lakshmi or Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai.
Evo. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Can everyone else hear it? If you can hear it, give lots of thumbs up and hearts. Mention in the comments. Good morning, Vinod, my old friend. Vinod Kapoor. Govinda Dev is with us as well. All right. We're going to end in the best way we could possibly end, with a magnificent Lakshmi Nrsimha Kirtan.
Haribo.
Puerto Rico. But he also wants to come to Utah like the rest of the world.
Yeah. I want to join the trend.
River flows to Utah.
Yeah, all rivers lead to Utah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaura Pramanandi.
Hari Bo. What a beautiful way to end a beautiful discussion. It's so nice when you jump in. Do you think you'll be able to do it with some regularity?
I'm going to try, definitely. Talking to my wife about scheduling and all that stuff.
Great, great. I mean, to have co-hosts, I don't know, just more electricity, more,
Yeah.
and you just you just trigger me in so many ways.
And
I mean,
vice versa, of course.
yeah, I mean, honestly, the discussion was just getting warmed up, but we all have things to do today, so we limit ourselves. But to be continued with Lakshmi, hopefully.
Hey,
Rob,
Krishna.
Rob, are you there, Rob? You want to give us?
Hello, I am here.
Okay, let's see you. If you're near the.
I'm actually driving, so I
Okay.
can't have my camera on right now. But
What's your takeaway?
I-
Yeah. Do you have a takeaway from today in just a couple of words?
you know, the world is here for Krishna's enjoyment, and we have divine responsibility to perform service and please Krishna so that his pleasure in this world can be absolute. I mean, he is absolute, but we have a duty to take care of the blessings that he's given us and to respect those. And the best way that I understand is to perform service in his name and with him in mind. And so I am going to focus on that.
Can I call you Prabhu? Can I call you Rob Prabhu?
You can call me anything you want, Prabhu.
Teacher. You're a teacher. You got it. You absorbed it and you repeated it. That's perfect.
He has understood.
I've understood. Om Tat.
I'm striving to understand. I'm still very much ignorant, but every day I learn more, and I'm incredibly grateful for the service that you provide by doing this each time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You're an inspiration to us, and none of us ever stop learning ever. We jump out of bed every morning. I get out of bed and I say, Krishna, thank you for this day, and thank you for the wonderful things you're going to teach me this day. And then I put my right foot on the floor. Something to keep in mind.
That is an excellent practice.
Yeah. When you get out of bed, touch the floor first with your right foot and say, Krishna, thank you for this day. I can't wait to see what it's going to bring. Thank
I
you,
will
Rob.
strive to do that.
Thank you, Rob. And thanks.
Thank you for your wisdom.
Haribo. Have a great one. We'd like to thank
Haribo.
those who liked during the course of our discussion: Atul Govindadas, Michelle Capitan, Rakesh Raghava, Justin Sorensen, Vinod Kapoor, Justin's from Michigan, Vinod's from California, Dibya Joshi, Stoka Krishnadas, Terry and Taruni from Minnesota, Subhadra, Rampare, Ram Kishore Das, Sundari Priya, Yogi, and Pragna Shah, Bhakti Gary, Sund from Northern California, Sean and Raquel Castro from Stockton, Manasa Ganga from Northern California, Jimmy and Taruni from Minnesota, and Raleigh Waller from Spanish Fork. Those are the ones that liked. Presumably we had lots more. We were well in the 20s in terms of the number of people that were listening to our Facebook Live broadcast. So thank all of you, and let us know you were here by liking or commenting. We always like to do that. And I will answer all of your comments afterwards. It may not be right away because I have to meet with someone at 9 o'clock, but just be patient. I will get back to you in due course. That's it for today. Thank you, Lakshmi. It was over the top. Bhai Bobby said it was a brilliant show.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Whatever Bhai Bobby says, I take it as absolutely true. Have a great week. We'll be back on Monday. And please, I'll pray that you successfully rearrange your schedule so you can co-host more often than not.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the wealth.
Offer my respectful obeisance to all the Assembly Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are just like desire trees, who can fulfill the desires of everyone and are full of compassion, the fallen conditioned souls. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare